You're listening to The Foundation of Wellness, a refreshing take on diet and lifestyle, with Jessica Dogert, a registered dietitian nutritionist, and Marisa Moon, a primal health coach. Hey everybody, it's me, Marisa Moon. I'm a certified primal health coach, and I love food, I love nutrition, and I love intermittent fasting. I created an online course called Intermittent Fasting Freedom because you could read a book about intermittent fasting and you can follow all these rules about intermittent fasting, but none of them set you up to win unless they put into place complete customization and flexibility to make it work for your life. And that's what I've done with my online course. This is the most effective way to successfully adopt intermittent fasting, no matter who you are. As long as you're an adult, this is going to teach you how to experiment with it for the rest of your life so you can stop dieting and stop doing diets that fail. This is going to finally help you get the results that you want and to last a lifetime. And you can still drink wine, go on vacation, do what you want to do because intermittent fasting is flexible. It's an anti-aging strategy. It helps you effortlessly maintain a healthy weight and achieve a healthy weight if you've got weight to lose. And the cool thing is, it doesn't make you lose muscle. It only makes you lose fat. And there's just so much more I want to share with you. That's why I've got a free guide, 4 Steps to Successful Intermittent Fasting, available for you at marisamoon.com/ifreedom. And now that guide comes with a 3-part video series where I'm coaching you along the way. It's all free. Go ahead and grab it, marisamoon.com/ifreedom. So today I want to hop on here and talk about kombucha and the keto diet. Those two things come together because I saw a post on Instagram from someone whom I admire in the keto and fasting world, and his post said, drinking kombucha for probiotics is like drinking soda for hydration. And of course, it's got thousands and thousands of likes and comments. And I'm like, come on, man, that is not true. Now, the important details here are that in the caption of the post, it was like a graphic, where you just have text. And then the caption said that he's tried all different kinds of kombucha and he's tried all different levels of sugar in those different types of kombucha. And he's had other people try it as well. And he tested his blood glucose levels with a continuous blood glucose monitor. And his blood sugar levels go up 40 points or more and stay that way over the course of 2 hours. And that could be alarming. That could mean that it's stressful on the body. There's inflammation and fat storage going on because insulin is going to be in constant production if your body's trying to get your 40 points of extra blood glucose down to normal. So it does sound alarming when he puts it that way. And I was like, what? No way. You've heard me say on the podcast before that kombucha is a great alternative to drinking pop or soda and that it's a good source of probiotic fermentation. And I was kind of bummed when I saw that. So since I really respect this person, I just started a conversation. I left a comment that said, this reminds me of Robb Wolf's book, Wired to Eat. I'll tell you about that in a second. But I commented that it reminds me of that book because maybe he has a carbohydrate intolerance, especially with this particular food, or he's, more sensitive to glucose in this type of food. And then I said, to claim that drinking kombucha for probiotics is like drinking soda for hydration is quite exaggerated. And he commented back, no, it's not. And then he commented again for me to try it for myself. I've never tested my blood glucose before, while I drank kombucha, and I do have a blood glucose monitor. So I told him I love that idea. I should test it for myself. I'm going to do that. So I bought a kombucha from the grocery store that had the most grams of sugar that I found. And it was 14 grams of sugar for the entire bottle. And I took my blood glucose levels with like a home blood glucose monitor. They're pretty cheap. You can get them at the pharmacy. And you just prick your fingertip and test your blood. And I did it before I drank the kombucha. I was already fasting. I did not eat anything. and I took it again an hour and 40 minutes after I drank the entire bottle of kombucha, which I should say I don't even usually drink the whole bottle at one time. I just think they're kind of big and I just don't want to drink the whole thing. So regardless, my blood sugar was 73 when I tested it before drinking the kombucha, and it was 72 points after an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes. So that means my blood sugar levels stayed the same. And I was kind of nervous because I do have some reactions to consuming too much sugar or too many carbs. I've talked about that as well on the show, and I was thinking, gosh, if this is happening to him and he's a really healthy guy, then it's probably going to happen to me. And then I'm going to have to say, you know what, kombucha is not good for us anymore, even if it has low sugar. But no, that's not what happened. And so I reached out to this person, and because he said, test yourself. And he was inviting people, show me if your blood glucose is not like this. And he said he knows all these other people that have done it and they have the same results as him. So I sent him a private DM on Instagram and showed him my results and told him that I thought maybe it was because he was more sensitive, or because he doesn't cycle his keto diet often enough or carb load often enough, because cyclical ketosis is really important when you want to make your metabolism more flexible and have, hormone regulation and all sorts of things for the long run optimal for your body. It's just kind of strict to stay on the whole time. That's not what real life would be like. So to optimize it, you want to cycle in and out of it. So he said, no, that's not true. I cycle in and out of keto all the time, but everyone is different. And if it works for you, that's awesome. And if you enjoy it, enjoy it. So that's not really all. I mean, in the post, he also bashed kombucha and said there's not a single piece of scientific evidence that says kombucha has any benefits whatsoever. And that's not true. Sure, human trials are lacking, but why would they be studying and spending all this money in science on kombucha? It's an ancient drink, by the way, an ancient fermented tea. I think it came from Russia, but it's just a method of preserving tea, almost in a way that it turns into alcohol, but, right before the stage where alcohol content starts to rise. So they have to put on the bottles that it may contain traces of alcohol, but, even like kids can drink it. It's just that they sweeten tea with sugar, and then the culture, which is called a SCOBY inside the kombucha, the culture of yeast and different probiotic bacteria colonies start eating the sugar in the kombucha, and they create carbonation, and they create probiotic beneficial bacteria and all sorts of compounds and byproducts that are beneficial to us. And they also create a little bit of alcohol. So that's basically what kombucha is. It's always been used throughout history, and it's delicious, and it's great to transition someone away from a soda drinking habit, because I've heard before kombucha is an acquired taste, but it completely depends on the brand and the flavor of kombucha that you're trying. So you can't drink one kombucha and tell me you don't like kombucha. I know that for a fact because they have even root beer flavored kombucha, and they have like red apple kombucha and watermelon ones, and they have ones pureed with mango fruit inside them, and they have ones that are really carbonated like a pop, and ones that are more still, closer to a tea, and that changes it dramatically. Some of them taste really dry, like a champagne or a dry cider, and some of them literally taste like you're drinking a pop, a soda. So I think it's an awesome thing to have, a treat to have when you're living a healthy lifestyle, and it's great to help you get off a soda drinking habit. So where do I end up after I've tested my blood sugar, and then we got this famous guy telling everybody to be afraid of it? I mean, you should see all the comments that were on the post. I'm not even going to name who it is, because I actually respect him, and that's not what I'm about. I'm sharing this message because we are going to continue to see things on social media and, broad media headlines and on the news and everywhere we turn, really, with people trying to jar us, get our attention, something polarizing to spark engagement, something like clickbait, to get a rise out of you, to stop you in your tracks, to get you to tag your friend in the post. So it's a strategy. to encourage more engagement. It makes people get in debates on your feed, and that for social media is really great. It gets you a lot of exposure. So it's not uncommon for someone with a big following or seeking a big following to make grand claims or use scare tactics to get more engagement. So that being said, there's no point in a huge debate. The point is that you have to know what works for you. Kombucha always made me feel good, and kombucha makes a lot of people feel good. But there seems to be quite a bit of people who don't think kombucha is good for them. Now, there could be a lot of reasons there. Kombucha is a fermented food, which means it's high in histamines. That means it can exaggerate allergies and certain symptoms that, I don't know, histamines are kind of confusing, but fog-brained and all sorts of, you could have fatigue. It's something you might want to look into if you feel like you already have a lot of seasonal allergies or asthma, then histamines could be exacerbating that. And then something else to consider is if you have a yeast or candida overgrowth or even small intestine bacterial overgrowth. Although kombucha never bothered me, and I think I had that about 4 years ago, it is really common today. And that could mean that drinking kombucha is going to give you more bloating or more gas or a little bit of discomfort. And that can happen from eating too much asparagus or almonds or onions. A lot of these foods that have fermentable sugars in them or fermentable fibers that are fermenting in your gut causing bloating. That's why I've covered the FODMAP diet on the podcast earlier. I will look up the number of that episode and include it in the show notes. So besides people who are worried about the candida or the histamines, should you be worried about the sugar that's in the kombucha? I mean, now I'm seeing something I did not ever see before, that kombucha brands are having 20 grams of sugar on their label or more. And I guess this is because in 2010, GT Kombucha, GT apostrophe S, GT's Kombucha, one of the best ones, the best tasting ones, and the most popular ones. In Chicago, we have them at Whole Foods Market. I think they're all over. But GT was actually sued by a few different individuals for not providing the total amount of sugar used to create the kombucha. See, the thing is, when you make kombucha, it has a certain number of grams of sugar in it, but the bacteria and the yeast eat the sugar. And so it's no longer there in the finished product that they bottle and sell you in the store. So GT and other kombucha brands were labeling the kombucha with the amount of sugar that is left in the product you're going to drink after fermentation. But they unfortunately had to pay millions of dollars because there's no one in the FDA sticking up for them that they don't have to include the sugar that was included before fermentation. So as confusing as that is, it just means even if a kombucha bottle now says 20 grams of sugar, usually I would tell people, no, don't drink anything or eat anything that has 20 grams of sugar in it unless it's a special occasion or celebration, because it's going to cause, a big insulin response in your body, a lot of inflammation, a lot of stored body fat, especially depending how you react and if you already have chronic inflammation and a high carb diet. But now I see that these companies have to put that on the label, but that's not even what you're actually drinking. So that means that we have to just figure out how it makes us feel. When you drink a kombucha, your favorite one, does it make you crave sweets afterwards or the same day? Does it make you have carb cravings? Does it make your energy crash, an hour or two later? Does it make you feel distracted? These are some signs that maybe you are having a response to the sugar inside the kombucha. Interestingly enough, in that book I mentioned, Wired to Eat, and also all over the world of nutrition and psychology now, you'll see that if we believe that something is going to affect us, like you're afraid that you can't tolerate sugar, or you've been on the keto diet for so long, you're literally like afraid of sugar, then you can get a dramatic insulin response and blood glucose response from something that is lower in sugar. Now, in the book Wired to Eat by Robb Wolf, I'll include a link in the show notes, Robb takes you through this personal experimentation where you try different carbs by themselves and measure your blood sugar levels or the way that you feel so that you can determine which carbs you're intolerant to and which ones you can tolerate. He gives lots of examples in the book, but maybe at one point in his life have lentils but not have rice, or vice versa. Or you can have sweet potato but you can't have lentils. And those are things that we can't differentiate just by carb count or sugar count alone. That's an individualized response. And so a lot of things come into play here to think how that could possibly happen to someone who is so healthy and practices keto and intermittent fasting and cyclical keto. But, there are so many other things that complicate this that you can't just make grand statements for everybody. I mean, there's even this thing where I think it's called hepatic glycogenolysis, which, as I understand it, is when you're in a ketogenic state, your liver and your cells have stored glycogen there, and in response to anything that raises your insulin or your blood sugar, your cells actually dump more glucose into your bloodstream. It's like a mild transient response that could end up bumping your blood glucose levels higher and would explain the 40-point rise in that guy's results. But there's other things too, like meter inaccuracy, or if you ate a meal around that time, or if you're drinking junk kombuchas. A lot of people kept bringing up junk kombuchas or anything added or unfermented sugars. And I was just like, you know what? Like, sure, there are junk kombuchas, but in general, most kombucha is made the old-fashioned way. It's just that everyone has an individual response. So something to look out for is if your kombucha has a little like sediment on the bottom and it has, they say, the mother still inside or the SCOBY still inside, that's a good thing. If it's not filtered, it shows you that it's still alive, or, that there's remnants of the culture that they use to ferment it. And there are so many benefits, even if those probiotics are actually alive, dead, those bacteria are actually dead, there are so many benefits as well. Science is just now starting to be able to identify that, but it's interesting. It's like just from those bacteria going to work, there are other benefits and byproducts that we haven't really named yet or aren't really familiar yet. So even if the probiotics you take in capsules are not refrigerated and all the bacteria are dead, there are still benefits. So it's pretty amazing. There are byproducts produced by those bacteria whenever they're at work or even after they're dead. And things happen in our GI tract when we consume them that actually make them beneficial in a different way. So not to bore you with things that are confusing, the most important thing is for you to try it for yourself. I think kombucha is awesome. I've already told you I can plan on continuing to drink it. I love trying all different flavors and different brands. And I even went to a kombucha bar in San Diego and we tried all different kombuchas on tap. It was so cool. We got a flight and got to try all different flavors. So as you can tell, I am definitely on board. And if you're doing ketosis or a low carb diet, it's important to practice cyclical ketosis. You don't want to make your body hyper responsive to glucose or carbs. You don't want to be afraid of like a sweet potato. On days that you're carb loading, like for instance, after you've been on keto diet for 3 weeks, you want to go 1 day a week with a feast day. That's when you're eating more carbs. Now, I don't want you eating like donuts with frosting on them, but you should have like a baked potato. Don't think that having a half of a sweet potato on your carb loading day is going to be enough. You want to train your body and your metabolism to be adaptive and flexible. It's called metabolic flexibility. That is so important to keep your thyroid functioning properly, to keep your insulin response ideal, and just to help you with longevity factors that are going to boost the benefits of the keto diet that you've grown to love. So don't be afraid of eating carbohydrates. You just have to be smart about it and do your research and learn so that you can optimize it if you want to do it for the long run. I think it's a great seasonal diet or something to help someone lose weight. I just don't love it for the long term. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. Reach out to me on Instagram. I am at Marisa_moon_, and we are Foundation of Wellness _podcast. And both of those will be in the show notes. I want to know how you feel about kombucha. Thanks for reaching out. Be sure to share our podcast with a friend. We're really working on growing our listenership, and you can help us do that. If you like what we're sharing and you find this information helpful, definitely send our show to a friend. Thanks. Bye.